now for an update on some of the business news. Brian Quinn joins me here. Good morning, Brian.
Hey, Will.
Starting with in the U.S., a significant step forward for Trump administration's tax plan.
Yeah, the U.S. House of Representatives has passed a budget blueprint for 2018 that could clear the way for the major tax cuts being sought by Trump and Republican leaders. Now, the budget passage will enable Republicans in the closely divided Senate to pass tax reform without support from the Democratic side of the aisle. But Trump's tax proposals are drawing criticism not only for their perceived favoring of corporations and the wealthy, but also for the nearly $1.5 trillion they would add to the federal budget deficit. Alex Jennings reports.
On this vote, the yeas are 216, the nays are 212. The motion is adopted without objection.
It's a narrow pass in the House of Representatives. But US President Donald Trump is one step closer to the tax reforms he believes will strengthen the economy.
Our tax cuts will restore America's competitive edge and lower the crushing tax burden on the American people.
The Republican plan is for corporate tax rates to be dropped from 35% to 20%. For small businesses, a cut from 39.6% to 25%, and the top individual rate will be lowered from 39.6% to 35%.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Thursday's vote on the budget plan means Republicans can sidestep Democratic support with just a simple majority in the Senate, the next step in passing legislation. The usual 60-vote supermajority needed in the Senate would be hard to reach. The Democrats have said the tax plan would give to the rich and to corporations by taking from the poorest. Under scrutiny is the scaling back of the tax-deferred retirement savings program, known as 401k, and the $1.5 trillion deficit that the proposed tax cuts would add over the next decade.
It raises taxes on the middle class. It borrows trillions from the future to give tax cuts to the wealthiest. 80% of the GOP's tax cuts go to the wealthiest 1% at the expense of children and working families.
A draft tax plan is being released next week, a step that is sure to kickstart fierce corporate lobbying and political haggling for potential amendments.
Well, signs of a Eurozone recovery, but still some signs and causes for concern in one member state.
That's right. Greece is the country we're talking about here. The Eurozone's bailout fund has approved an €800 million payment for Greece as part of its third bailout program since going bankrupt after the global financial crisis. This latest loan will be used to pay previous Greek government debts. Now, with the latest tranche of bailout cash, Eurozone governments will have paid out €182 billion to Greece. The country is scheduled to exit its current bailout program in August of 2018.
Well, it's the last day of the trading week. How are markets looking so far today?
Asian indexes following Wall Street up in Friday trading, with Tokyo's Nikkei index closing up nearly 1.25% as a strong dollar helped exporters there. Canon and Nintendo shares doing especially well. South Korea's Kospi up around 0.6% as manufacturing stocks pose gains. Hong Kong's Hang Seng index also up around 0.6 on positive earnings reports from the China Construction Bank. The Shanghai Composite up around 0.1%. European index is opening in positive territory as well. Investors optimistic after the European Central Bank announced a gradual winding down of its bond-buying stimulus program in 2018. London's FTSE 100 up 0.1%. CAC 40 here in Paris up around 0.3. Frankfurt DAX is up 0.5%. Madrid's IBEX actually opening 0.2 higher despite the deepening crisis in Catalonia.
And finally, for business, it's a story as old as money as itself. The rich get richer, Brian.
That's right, except these days the sums we're talking about are getting truly astronomical. A new report by financial service firm UBS and auditing house PwC shows the wealth of the world's billionaires grew by nearly $1 trillion. That's $1,000 billion in 2016. There are just over 1,500 billionaires in the world today. Together, they hold about $6 trillion. That's more than the GDP of any one EU country. The growth in their wealth last year far outpaced the stock markets or overall economic growth. It's due to gains not just in equities, but also commodities, real estate, and tech investments. Now, the report pointing out that our current gilded age is reaching the same duration as the previous one in the early 20th century, and that the current cycle is likely to end in the next 10 to 20 years. So we've still got some time to stock up on the gold bullion and canned food well before the next crash comes, it looks like.
Don't knock canned food. There's some good things in cans.
I don't mind it at all. I'm already stocked up.
Brian Quinn with a roundup of the business.